This book is an autobiographical account of life in Waynesboro, and it was written by George Beard Coffman, and it covers 1758 to 1952. So let's begin where we left off the last time. Slabs of limestone about 6 inches thick were sunk into the ground on edge along the sides of the street. They were lined up carefully, at least a foot extending above the street level. In front of these slabs, on the street side, were laid smaller stones forming a gutter or water table. This kept the running water after rainstorms from washing out the curbs. It also made a good place for kids to build dams, since the streets were higher in the middle than at the curbs. Behind and against the properties, earth was filled in to top off the curb. It created sidewalks on which pedestrians were protected from vehicles. In rainy weather, the walks became muddy and bare feet pick up splinters very nicely. There were a few brick sidewalks, but not many. John R. Hoflick was Burgess, and the policing of the borough was carried on by the high constables who were paid by the day when he worked. Water rent was paid twice a year. The hotels were the National, Washington, Central, and the Lilac, now known as the Anthony Wayne. They all provided stables to put up your horse. There were hitching posts and hitching racks in front of some of the places of business, and where there was none, the driver just lifted his hitching weight from his buggy, set it on the ground, and snapped the strap to the ring in the horse's bridle. The year 1890 was a big year for Charlie and Fanny. In addition to changing jobs, buying a house, and moving, they had their second child, a boy, born October 20th. They named him Alan Berman. It must have been some job to keep the house warm with that wood stove. Fanny had it stored in the stable and purchased one in which they could also burn coal. The new coal ranges and room heaters were big sellers in the stove stores. Fanny's father missed his trips to Waynesboro since the fuel wood business was on the decline. In 1883, he bought his first lot and purchased others later. He had one east of town, now Wayne Heights, one on the north side of East Main Street between Cottage and Broad Streets, now number 125, and another from the Clayton Farm, now the corner of Clayton Avenue and 2nd Street, number 103. The long drives from Fountaindale were getting a bit tiresome, and since he was almost hit by a train at Charmaine, he decided to build himself a house on one of his lots. Selecting the one on Main Street, he constructed a 2-story brick with a full attic and basement. He must have had a chance to turn a profit because he did not move in. Henry Reinhardt did, and George Beard went out to Clayton Avenue and built himself another house, and he did move in this time. He sold the farm, but kept a horse and buggy and a wagon, which he kept in the stable built at the end of the lot. The house had a complete bathroom, which included a pool-chain toilet and a hot water heating system, a central hall with the parlor on one side and his sitting room on the other. To the rear of his sitting room was the dining room and kitchen. The second floor had 3 bedrooms and the bath. The telephone had come to town. 4 have been installed, 1 each in the following places of business: Frick Company, Geyser Company, Daniel Shockey's Lumber Yard, and Amos Lacron and Sons, grain dealers. More businesses and homes wanted telephones, and soon a larger switchboard and an operator were added. Miss Mary Stoner was named for the position. Her pay would be $8 per month, for which she also helped Mr. W.J.C. Jacobs with some of his other business interests. It was he who brought the telephone to town. The year 1890 also brought a new school building built on West North Street at Grant. The First National Bank of Waynesboro was the town's second bank, the first now out of existence. The People's National Bank was organized this year and has now opened its doors. This growing community now has 2 banks to take care of the public's needs. Another item for 1890, the African Methodist Episcopal Church cornerstone was laid on the corner of Mulberry and King Streets on June 18th. Reverend Palmer was the speaker at the service. An elaborate job of grading and leveling the streets was to take place shortly, and Mr. D.C. Weller had contracted to make the survey. Mr. Weller grew up and taught school in Eilers Valley before moving to Waynesboro. The streets were to be paved with macadam, which consisted of crushed stone, the larger stones on the bottom layer and the smaller on the top. It did keep the vehicles out of the mud, or it made the mud more solid. Log houses began disappearing. They were not being torn down, just covered with weatherboarding. It certainly changed the appearance on the two-story houses, but the one-story log houses still had an appearance that you could recognize. Electricity for general use came in 1892. Frick Company and Geyser Company had their own generating plants for the previous 10 years. Street lights were added first, and the merchants followed. Soon the Waynesboro Light and Power Company was flooded with requests for service. Ezekiel Eldon was president and William H. Brown vice president. Mr. Brown was Charlie and Fanny's next-door neighbor. The day of the candlestick was passing. Many different styles of kerosene lamps as well as kerosene stoves were on sale and in use in homes and stores. Since the discovery of oil at Titusville in 1859, the use of kerosene had developed and grown. It was delivered to stores by tank wagon and carried home by customers in coal oil cans of 1-gallon size and up. Grocery delivery wagons often had potato stock on the can spout to keep the contents from splashing on the groceries beside it. The St. John's Lutheran Church in Kriegerstown, Maryland held a Thanksgiving Day dinner serving turkey and ham family style. The price, 25 cents. They ran out of turkey and ham and served fried oysters in the evening. It was their first try, and this method of raising money for the church was a big success. The year 1893 brought more changes to the family. They had another baby. This time it was a girl, born October 8th, and they named her Mabel Margaret. Charlie had his wages cut 2 cents in November due to the Panic of 1893. Bicycles were coming into general use, and there was a rumor that a female was seen riding one. Druggists Menster and Clugston had a bicycle rack on the curb in front of the store. In the early 1880s, there came to Waynesboro from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, 2 men of unusual engineering ingenuity. These brothers, Abraham B. Landis and Frank F. Landis, did not come to seek fame and fortune, but merely employment in a field where their mechanical abilities could be more effectively expended. One went to work at Geyser and one at Frick. The demand for better machine tools to cope with the growing prominence of hard steel was felt throughout the land. Abraham worked out a grinding machine that could do a good job. The brothers decided to manufacture it, and here we have the beginnings of the Landis Tool Company. Waynesboro was now a busy little town. There were now 25 phones, and it became possible to speak to persons as far away as Chicago or Boston. We even had a street sprinkler, pulled by 2 horses. The driver sat on the seat, placed way up on top of the large barrel-like tank, laying on its side. Bricks, bricks, bricks. There was a tremendous demand. Factories and homes, and now the sidewalks, were using bricks in great quantities. D.W. Hess, the local builder, found a way to get them. Robert Annan Haley and his small family moved into town in 1890 and placed peach trees on the hills north of the roadside road, clear back to Lesher's Woods. He was working with Isaiah Hollinger, an early friend. He really was a plasterer and had been following this line of work with the Pennsylvania Railroad. His last job was in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. D.W. Hess came into the picture because there was a good clay bank at the rear of his planing mill on North Franklin Street, and he needed bricks. He talked Mr. Haley into engineering the brick-making business. A plant was started on the Hess property, but the clay bank played out in a few years. The business was moved to North Broad Street, where it turned out large quantities, bringing the good price of $10 per thousand. In April 1895, Charlie got back the 2 cents which had been cut from his hourly rate in 1893. Fanny pushed for an addition to the house and won. The part added was almost as large as the original house, making it L-shaped. I think we'll stop there for today. We'll get back and continue on the next time we get together to read from the book. I think it's a good place to stop. And we're going to see then, what happens in Charlie's and Fanny's family and what more comes to Waynesboro. So until then, please, please read. Stop at the library. We'd love to see you. Thanks and have a wonderful day.